Hello, in this video we're going to wrap up the immune system by talking about immune disorders and malfunctions. So as we saw in several videos, the immune system is extremely complicated, there's lots of moving parts, and as you can imagine, a lot of things can go wrong. And when things go wrong, that's how we get immune disorders and certain types of malfunctions. So one of the main ones is called immune hypersensitivities, which is just a fancy word for saying that the immune system is overreacting. The immune system is reacting and targeting something that it shouldn't, whether it's something harmless like peanuts, right? Peanut allergies is just a type of hypersensitivity, or whatever it is. So there's different types. There's 4 types actually, and we call them type 1, 2, 3, and 4. Type 1, in summary, again, I'm not going to go through it in super detail, but type 1 is essentially IgE antibodies. So they're a specific type of antibody, not the same as IgG, not the same as IgM. They're called IgE. And what happens is they, for whatever reason, bind to a mast cell. A mast cell is a type of white blood cell that contains histamine. And histamines are important for inflammation. Now, what happens is this mast cell with this IgE antibody kind of sticking out, kind of looks like a B cell. If you have an allergen like pollen or dandruff, dandruff, are people allergic to dandruff? Dander, I meant pet dander, or peanuts, right? So you're exposed to an allergen, it binds to the antibody because it's specific, that activates the mast cell to release tons of histamine. And histamines, again, cause inflammation. It's obviously good if it's localized inflammation, but if it is systemic, that's how you get the runny nose, the sneezing, the coughing, the whole thing, the itchiness, etc. Type 2 hypersensitivities has to do with primarily blood related things, blood type. So if you, for example, receive a blood transfusion of the wrong blood type, that is going to trigger your immune system to bind to it because you have immune cells that you have antibodies that bind to different types of blood types, and that's obviously really bad. So when we're talking about type 2 hypersensitivities, it's usually some kind of blood type, blood transfusion related kind of issue. Type 3 is a not really common, but it is a type of allergy that happens where, or not really allergy, but just an issue that happens in your body where your immune system produces these antibodies that clump up for whatever reason. They just clump and they bind to antigens and they make these giant clumps. And that is going to cause tons of immune activation in a specific area. And that's going to cause localized inflammation. But, it can also cause things like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. So not great. And then finally, the type 4 hypersensitivities have to do with T cells that are, for whatever reason, attacking different cells in your body, even though they shouldn't. So a cytotoxic T cell, for example, attacking something that it shouldn't, and that would obviously be an issue. So things like multiple sclerosis and diabetes can be caused by type 4 hypersensitivities. Okay, then we have autoimmune disorders. So an autoimmune disorder is when your immune system starts to mistakenly produce antibodies against itself. So this is a humoral autoimmune disease, auto meaning self. So you are attacking yourself using antibodies. And that's obviously not good. So here's just an example of a type of autoimmune disease where your immune system is producing antibodies against your muscle cells, and basically it's going to target and damage the muscle cells, and it basically blocks the muscle cells from contracting. So as you can see here, when your muscle cells contract, they need to bind to the acetylcholine neurotransmitter, but the antibody is blocking it, and so your muscle cell does not contract, and we go into paralysis. So this is just one example of an autoimmune disorder. There's dozens and dozens of different types. And then finally, the last one is organ transplant and organ rejection. This is not necessarily your immune system's fault, but this is something that we have to keep in mind when we want to do an organ transplant. So all of the cells in your body, except for your red blood cells, have MHC1. We've talked about this several times. Now, if you receive an organ that has an MHC1 that is incompatible with yours, your natural killer cells are going to see this MHC1 and see it as a foreign MHC1 and then attack. By the way, natural killer cells are a type of white blood cell found in your innate immune system. So it is really important when we are doing organ transplant to make sure that the MHC1 receptors are compatible. And that is why it takes so long for us to find, compatible organs, because we are basically looking at these MHC1s and making sure that it is as similar to the recipient as possible. That was all I had for kind of the immune disorders and malfunctions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.